The plane crash that killed a rising star in the world of music and film.
22-year-old singer, songwriter, and actress Aaliyah seemed like she was on an unstoppable path to the top. But what really happened on that fateful evening? Let's go back to August 22nd, 2001. Aaliyah was in Miami filming underwater scenes for her next single, Rock the Boat. Aaliyah and crew then flew to the Abaco Islands in the Bahamas to continue the shoot. She finished filming her parts a day earlier than expected, so on the evening of August 25th, they decided to catch a flight back to Florida. The Cessna 402 they chartered ended up being 2 hours late. Everyone had grown impatient waiting at the terminal. Aaliyah was known to be a nervous flyer, and she had serious reservations flying on such a small plane and refused to board it. She was starting to get a headache and went back to the taxi to rest. Later on, someone was sent to check on her. They allegedly slipped Aaliyah something to help her relax. The passengers were arguing with the pilots about the equipment and luggage, telling him there was plenty of space for everything they brought. The pilot tried to convince them that space wasn't the issue, it was the weight, and the plane was overloaded. But he eventually did give in, and the passengers started aboard. Aaliyah was brought out of the taxi and carried onto the plane despite her earlier protests, still knocked out from whatever she had been given earlier. After having trouble starting one of the engines, the aircraft was finally ready, so they taxied out to runway 27 to depart. Witnesses saw the plane slowly lift off and climb to about 100 feet. Then, one of the engines failed, and they started a nosedive. Unable to recover, it crashed into the marsh just 200 feet off the departure end. Emergency responders were quick to the scene, but it didn't look good. When Aaliyah's plane crashed, the fuselage burst into flames, and just 20 feet away from the wreckage, they found her, still strapped to her seat. Aaliyah and the 8 others on board were killed. She suffered severe burns and a head injury. The coroner said that even if she survived the crash, that due to shock, her recovery would have been nearly impossible. Scott Galen, Aaliyah's security guard, initially survived the crash but died shortly after. He spent his last moments asking if Aaliyah was going to be alright. The NTSB reported that the aircraft was overloaded and was carrying one more passenger than it was certified for. The maximum weight had been substantially exceeded, and the center of gravity was positioned beyond its real limits. They also stated that pilot Morales had only been hired just 2 days before the crash and was not approved to fly the aircraft. He falsely obtained his license by showing logs of hundreds of flight hours he had never flown. He also reported no contest to a cocaine charge just 12 days before the accident, and his toxicology report revealed traces of cocaine and alcohol in his system. Initially, there was uncertainty over whether the music video for Rock the Boat would ever air. In the end, they decided to release it, making its world premiere on October 9th, 2001. She won 2 posthumous awards at the American Music Awards in 2002, Favorite Female R&B Artist and Favorite R&B Soul Album for Aaliyah. On the first anniversary of her death, a candlelight vigil was held in Times Square. Millions of fans joined in a moment of silence, and throughout the country, radio stations played her music in remembrance. Her legacy lives through her films and music. 20 years after her death, she is still remembered by fans around the world.